dragged their sleds over to Dead Man's Hill on the other side of the parkway at the first hint of snow, Mr. Oliveira climbed into bed beneath 2 wool blankets. He turned on his side, breathed deeply 3 times, thought about adding antifreeze to the radiator of his Chrysler, then went to sleep and never woke up again. Oliveira's wife, who was old-fashioned and made jam from the grapes her husband grew by the side of the house, immediately went to Virginia to stay with her married daughter. While Mrs. Oliveira was deciding whether to stay with her daughter or move back to a neighborhood where she would be the only woman over 60, widowed or not, the house, for reasons no one could fathom, began to fall apart. By Christmas, the shutters had split and come off their hinges. By February, the concrete along the front stoop was crumbling. Late in the spring, the grass in the front yard grew so tall, people swore mosquitoes were breeding there, and they crossed over to the other side of the street so they wouldn't have to pass by. Joe Hennessy, who had been on the Nassau County Police Force for 5 years and was up for review, finally dragged out his new power mower and went across the street. Hennessy was 6'2", with strong muscles in his back and arms. But after he had cut half the front yard, he was so exhausted he had to sit down on the front stoop just to catch his breath. By July, when Mrs. Oliveira decided to sell the house, it was too late. By then there was a peculiar smell emanating from it, even though the windows were closed tightly and locked, and the overripe odor, which made people in the neighborhood wonder if a pot of jam had been cooked too long and then forgotten on the rear burner of the stove, drove prospective buyers away. All through the summer, the smell persisted. It grew riper and sweeter each day. The women on the block bought Airwick, and they washed their floors with Lysol. But the smell came in through the screen windows and seemed to slap them in the face. Ace McCarthy, who was 17 and scared of very little in this world, lived right next door to the Oliveira place, and although he would never have told anyone, there were times, late at night, after he had turned off his transistor radio, when he swore he could hear someone groaning. Some jokester on another block, on Poplar or Pine, started the rumor that the house was haunted, and on Saturday nights, carloads of teenagers parked outside. The boys honked their horns and dared each other to spend the night in the Oliveira house. They called each other chicken and kissed each other's girlfriends, and they wouldn't budge until Joe Hennessy went out, opened the door of his squad car, and let the siren rip. Why this should happen on their block, of all places, no one was sure. Hadn't they raked all their dead leaves into heaps they burned along the curb each October? Hadn't they brought lemon pound cakes and brownies with walnuts to the bake sales at the elementary school? Their children were rowdy, but good-natured. The worst their teenage daughters would do was slip a tube of lipstick into their pocketbooks in the drugstore, or eat an entire bag of chips while they babysat. The neighbors looked to those around them for an explanation. A punishment of some sort had befallen them, but who was it directed toward? Not John McCarthy, who owned the Texaco station up on Harvey's Turnpike, even though he was the most logical candidate since his house was right next door to Oliveira's. But perhaps the curse was aimed at his 2 wild sons, Jackie and Ace, who called their father the Saint behind his back. The Shapiros, on the other side of the McCarthys, certainly deserved something that would knock them off their high horse. They'd been suspiciously lucky with their children. Danny was too smart for his own good, and Ricky liked to comb her red hair right in front of you, just to show off. It was unlikely that the punishment was directed at the Durgans. Donna Durgan's house was so clean she put everyone else to shame. Or the Weinmans, whose crabapple trees formed a bower of pink